And I would like to turn it over to Amy, who is going to take it away, introduce herself, and get started on this awesome topic that I know you guys are really excited about.
Great. Thanks so much for the warm welcome, Meg. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. I'm Amy. If you didn't meet me last time, this is the second installment of our workshop series. So our first one, we were just mostly talking about, day in the life of a UX designer, UX in the field. And now we're going to start diving into portfolios. So I will go ahead and share my screen here. We'll dive right in. All right. Is everyone able to see? Fantastic. Great. All right. So today we're going to focus on crafting your power portfolio from a UX perspective. And super excited to chat with you guys on this, share my advice, tips, and tricks, and we'll have a little bit of interactive stuff. We'll do a little whiteboarding activity and then have a Q&A session at the end. So diving right into it, if you didn't meet me during the first installment of this workshop series, I'm Amy. Good to meet you. I'm a UX designer based in Seattle. I also a team builder and mentor. I volunteer on the side at Iterate UX, which is a nonprofit organization where I'm building the mentorship team and platform there. And I also mentor on a bunch of other different platforms and frequently speak and teach workshops in collaboration with like designathons and hackathons, things like that. And for my day job, I currently work as a full-time in-house designer with a company called Online Metals. It's in the e-commerce space. And this company began as a startup over 20 years ago. And then they were acquired by ThyssenKrupp, which is a big German international industrial and tech conglomerate. That acquisition happened back in 2007. And at this company, I primarily lead the end-to-end design for the responsive website and progressive web app. I manage the design system and then also provide occasional print work assets, information architecture, and design assets for our third-party marketplaces as well. And getting right into it here, we're going to dive right into a whiteboarding activity. So I'm going to go ahead and pop over here to our Zoom and pop in the chat here the link. All right, so I went ahead and shared that link in the FigJam board, and then I'll go ahead and share my screen as well. So should be edit access, but if that doesn't work, I taught a workshop last week where I shared the edit access link and I still had to approve everyone. So we'll see what happens here, but I'll go ahead and share. That screen. Looks like I'm seeing people already in the board there. Excellent. Go ahead and share my screen in case anyone can't join. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start a little bit of music here and a timer for about 5 minutes where here we're going to just dive a bit into the anatomy of a portfolio. So from your point of view, what are some elements, pages, features, or considerations that you think should be included in your portfolio website, or maybe you already have as part of your portfolio website, if that's something you've already started? So would just kind of love to assess where everyone's at, see what you're already aware of, which components should be included in your portfolio, and we'll discuss briefly and then continue with our presentation. I love it. Looks like people already have a lot to say. Thanks for sharing that link in the chat, Meg. Appreciate it. For anyone who's just joined, we've got about 2 minutes left on this activity, but basically it's just about putting down some thoughts that you have on pages and features, elements, considerations, kind of anything pertaining to a portfolio, what you think should be included or what you've included on your portfolio already, just to kind of get a baseline of where everyone's at. Does look like momentum has kind of slowed here, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the music and also stop our timer. All right, so we'll just dig right in. If you're still writing, no worries, keep at it while we just discuss briefly what everyone's saying. But zoom in here so we can see a bit better. So using photos and graphics more than telling. So more visual aspects for the storytelling instead of text. Love that. About me section, absolutely. Project list, resume, extra page for other projects. Yes, yes, yes. And seeing that here too as well. Resume, about, projects, extra work, show them your hobbies. Love that. Design philosophy. Yes, that's a new one that hasn't been mentioned yet. About me, resume, tell a story. Love it. Seen a lot of common patterns here with the about me, projects, contact, resume. Looks like you guys have a good grasp on some of those pages that should be in a portfolio. Ooh, even getting into some case study stuff here with team member roles and contributions, a story of your process, UX research and design projects, intro and about you. Love this one. What makes you unique as a designer? Design thinking process. Yes. A design values, that also kind of that design philosophy process. Perfect. Personality and personal style, short self-introduction and previous experience, showing the process behind your work, absolutely. Focusing more on the content rather than the design. And I think that's a difficult thing to balance, right? We have the sticky above saying using the photos and graphics for storytelling, but also using the content is necessary as well, and striking that good balance for the storytelling between what you need to say versus what you need to show. Definitely. Show the design process in case studies. Yes. About and projects and resume. Absolutely. Landing page, which tells a bit about you. I really like that. And again, mentioning that play and hobbies section to kind of infuse the personality. Really love that. Purpose, projects that you are most proud of. Yeah, especially if you have a lot of projects, how you kind of whittle it down to which ones you want to show. Case studies, definitely. Introduction of myself, case studies I've done, outstanding projects that show your skills and process, 100%. Other projects and hobbies besides UX UI case studies, definitely. And a lot of good stuff here about skills and services I provide. Yeah. and projects, resume, content page, or contact page. Perfect. It looks like you guys already have a really good grasp of like what should be in the portfolio, some of those elements, and then we'll dive now deep into all of that. I'm going to just stop my share quickly so I can navigate to that other page since this is taking up my whole screen. All right. So we just completed with our whiteboarding activity and then diving into this whole portfolio process. A lot of you guys mentioned like a design process. I definitely think, that's kind of where to start with your portfolio process. Same thing for any project, whether we are building a website, an app, we'll have our design process, which we feature in our case studies as kind of that way to organize and guide ourselves along that process and not get lost into like, well, what should we do first? What still needs to be done? How do we structure this? So I'm a big fan of UXing the portfolio process as well. What is your design process? And apply that to building your portfolio. Step 2, understand, empathize with your users. So that fits into that design process of like understanding who your user base is and how you're going to design for them. Exploring your best portfolios. This is going to be like research, kind of competitor benchmarking, like you might do for any project. That kind of gives you some awareness of, what's out there, some ideas of how you might design your own portfolio. Then choosing a platform, that's a whole process in and of itself, heavily related to research, figuring out what is the cost of each of these companies, what do they offer, what sort of templates do they have, can you code your own, what direction to go. And then getting into ideation, starting lo-fi, getting ideas out on paper, brainstorming, then understanding and branding yourself, starting to get now into like the actual hi-fi design, color, typography, branding, all of this. And then the architecture and navigation, leveraging familiar patterns is always helpful. We'll get more into that later. But then step 8, your portfolio structure and elements, which we already kind of briefly discussed here in our whiteboarding activity. And then the user experience or usability of your portfolio. So this will be kind of like your test phase. And then testing and iterating on your portfolio, testing with actual users, and then making changes and improvements. So getting into step 1, UXing the process. What is your design process? So there are a lot of different design processes. You can make completely your own with your own words. You can follow a really common one. This is one of the most popular ones, the design thinking process, which organizes the different steps into starting with empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, as kind of, that initial process prior to implementation. And then further breaking that down into like an overall understand phase, explore phase, and then materialize phase, where those sub phases fit into each of those. So this is one of the most popular. There's also double diamond, which preceded design thinking. And that's like the 4Ds: discover, define, develop, deliver, which is divergent and convergent. We have like in the discover phase, like research is going to fit in there, understanding, empathizing. In the define phase, we can have like analyze and synthesize, then our actual definition of the problem. Then within development, that will be like ideation, prototyping, testing, partially refining. And then with deliver, that will be, actual the implementation, and then also iterative back to refining and potentially even doing more research on that. And then there's also human-centered design, which has the 4 phases of understand, define, design, and evaluate. So they're all really similar, just different ways of thinking about the same process of like understanding, observing, empathizing, discovery, research, all being that first phase. And then further defining, analyzing, synthesizing, coming up with what is that right problem to solve. The design and iteration, prototyping, building the whole thing, and then testing and evaluating and refining to move forward. So they all are very similar, and you can totally also create your own process. But I would heavily, really strongly recommend take one of these processes, whether it's your own or one of these really common design processes, and apply it to your portfolio project, just like you would any UX project. So getting into understanding and empathizing with your users, we have to ask, well, who are your users? So these can be recruiters, hiring managers, potential clients, your interview panel. Basically, it's anybody who is going to view your portfolio and might have influence in hiring you for something. So, say you're a freelancer, this could be like potential clients. If you're looking for a full-time role, this might then be like anyone in these top 3 bullet points. The recruiters might be looking at your portfolio, the hiring manager, anyone on that interview panel, which can be like the VP of design, the head of design, even if the panel might include like team members. Some companies will even do that where team members will be part of the final interview stage. And they might check out your portfolio to understand who you are and how you go about design, what is your approach. So understanding who these users are will then help you figure out, well, what is their experience like? Designers are easy, right? We can kind of understand because that's us. What's important to us? What are we looking for? But we might have a little bit more of an open question surrounding like recruiters and hiring managers. And I really strongly recommend, connect with these people on LinkedIn. There's so many recruiters and hiring managers that abundantly share their insights of things like, don't make me look for your contact information, have a personality, tell me about yourself, things that are helpful or things that are frustrating to them. And that's such a helpful way to just get free insights. Additionally, when you connect and build relationships with some of these people, you could even ask to interview them and learn more about like what is that process at their company, and what are those pain points? What is an ideal portfolio like from their perspective? Because some of these people might not be designers. The hiring manager or the recruiters might not care about the same things designers care about at all. So very important to understand your users. Next is benchmarking, exploring those best portfolios. And I'll actually be providing a resource list at the conclusion of this workshop, where I've put together a bunch of links where you can explore best portfolios. Because sometimes it's hard to know where to start, like what is a good portfolio? And sometimes people share best portfolios, but they're for like senior designers. And as a junior designer, you might need to be showcasing your skill set and your projects in a different way, storytelling even in a different way than like a senior designer would. So I've put together a list of various resources, including some like best junior designer portfolios or entry-level designer portfolios, to kind of see like what is a good starting place. So then you can explore, read through those articles, check out each and every one of those portfolios and see like, oh, is that something I really like? Would I want to build something like that? What makes this a good portfolio or not? And then that next step is choosing a platform. So after you've done your research and kind of figured out like what you like, what your skill set is, for example, if you have coding skills, would you want to actually code your own website or, be involved in some of that build? If you know how to, if you're designing in Figma and you're very good with like auto layout and all that, you can use Webflow to get your Figma designs straight to a website. If you want to use a template-based website and want something just kind of easy, just overall understanding your space will help you choose. Pricing's the other thing of like how much do these different platforms cost? What can you afford? And what is worthwhile? I've compiled kind of a list of these, some of these most popular portfolio websites for UX designers. We've got Squarespace, which is template based. So they have like a whole library of templates. You can choose one and then you can customize it, which is super nice. UX Folio is similar to that. And same with like Adobe Portfolio. So those are all some nice options to use. There's also Wix, which has really robust SEO. So I would really recommend like dig into each of these because depending on like how you want to use your site, your priorities will be very different. For example, if you want to be a freelancer, leveraging something like Wix or WordPress that has like really strong SEO analytics that you can leverage, this would be important because you're going to find your users through like, the clients who might hire you might find you through social media or a website, Google search, something like that. So you have to have really good SEO. Where something like Adobe Portfolio has very basic SEO, you might not get very good search results, which ultimately not a concern if you're applying to companies where all you have to do is, send them that link and you're not looking to freelance or get clients from elsewhere. And then we already mentioned Webflow, which is really that like up and coming. It's newer than a lot of these other sites and integrates really nicely with Figma. If you're interested, you can take courses on how to design for Webflow, kind of learn that, and then design things in Figma that will directly translate to your website with no code. And then WordPress has been around for ages. It's used by a lot of reputable companies, kind of can't go wrong in a way with WordPress, but it can be a little bit like a lot to take in for someone who might be like newer to building websites, where maybe in that case you would want something more template based, like just show me something I like, I'll choose the template and then I'll just plug and play, add in my photos, add in my text. That might be something a little easier to digest. So I've also provided on the resource list that you'll be receiving a list of all of these to check out, and would recommend look into their pricing structure, look into their offerings, their SEO. Do they have templates? Can you code? How much control do you have to make that choice of where you want to host your portfolio website or even move your portfolio website? Some people already have a portfolio website and simply want to move it onto a different platforms because they've run into their own constraints. Behance, I also wanted to mention. This one is not like a traditional website in some of that sense, where, it's kind of more like Dribble, where a lot of designers will be posting their work. However, they do have a lot of built-in options where you can literally link your resume. You can put your whole job history, your experience, about me. It will live in the little side column, and then each of your projects presents like simply but well. You don't have a whole lot of control of how your dashboard looks or personalization beyond just like your image and cover photo, and then however you design the cover photos for your projects. But beyond that, you don't have a whole lot of control or like animation or anything like that. But it does work hand in hand with Adobe Portfolio. So if you have something on Behance and ever want to kind of upgrade and have more control over the look of your portfolio, you can upgrade directly import those projects to Adobe Portfolio, but Adobe Portfolio is not free, where Behance is. So I know Behance is often a nice starting place for a lot of students who just want to get their work out there and have something that is free and doesn't cost money. So just wanted to let you know about that option. And then getting into ideation, I always recommend to start lo-fi. I think it can be so tempting to be like, oh, I've chosen my platform. Now I'm just going to like design it and everything. But really taking the time to develop a strategy, flush out ideas, that will also help you sometimes earlier on make the right decisions for what's important to you. So I recommend to start with making a very simple text-based plan, like either in Google Docs or Notes, something like this, that would outline what you want to include in your portfolio. So this can literally be like your pages, like you already mentioned on the sticky notes in our whiteboarding activity. This can also just be ideas that you might have of like, I really want to like animate this and have this on the landing page. And this can be kind of your master copy of content. You can even have pages dedicated to the content and the copy, everything that you're going to have for your titles, for your body, for your case studies. And it's really nice to have that hard copy living on the side, especially as your portfolio changes and develops. Or say you were to delete or you lose something, you would still then all have that living there within your docs or notes. So really recommend that approach. And then sketching out lo-fi ideas of how you might envision that portfolio site layout or structure. Sometimes just getting this down on simple paper of like, what do you want it to look like above the fold? Will you have a CTA at the top? Will you have just hello, I'm John. Will you have, an introduction to who you are? Will it be illustrations or images? Like what all is this going to look like? Flushing that out with some like lo-fi paper sketches can be really helpful at this point. And then understanding and branding yourself. So then getting out of lo-fi, starting to figure out like, who am I? What do I want to say about myself? How do I brand myself and position myself? Just like any other website that you've built. So when you've done, say, student projects or projects for a design-a-thon, anything independent or freelance work, you've worked with like the company's branding, which is already established, or maybe you've even worked on developing that branding for a company. Your own site is absolutely no different. For example, a recruiter or a hiring manager, if they come to your site and they feel like, whoa, you totally don't have a grasp on branding because we look at your resume, we look at your LinkedIn and then your website, nothing is consistent here. We don't know like really what is your style? Who are you? So this is a great opportunity to really position yourself as understanding branding, potentially even marketing, especially if you're like a freelancer. Um, some questions that you might ask yourself are like, what color represents you? And I included a little screenshot of the color theory wheel, flavor wheel here. And it shows like from a psychological perspective, a lot of these different words that we associate with different color shades. For example, looking at yellow, it can be like happiness, joy, positivity, fun, warmth, things like this. Green can be like safety, health, growth, nature. And you'll notice a lot of those sort of commonalities, like, for example, apps like LinkedIn and Facebook. You notice that they're using the blue color. A lot of banking apps will use blue because it's like trust and loyalty, security. And so there's a psychological reason behind that. And that's something you can really leverage as to like, maybe it's just as simple as what is my favorite color? Maybe you're very passionate about a certain color. Like in my case, it's pink. I love pink. I love to wear pink. I love pink everything. um, And it also can be something that maybe you're wanting to pitch yourself as, like, if you're a very say you're very into like AI, or you design within the health space, maybe the way that you're presenting yourself then with your choices for color will kind of align and indicate that you're aware of this psychology and you're displaying that on your site. Typography is no different in terms of psychology. Um, if you're using a serif font, a sans serif, script, the weight, the size, all of this that can be really powerful to use for your branding, showcasing that you understand how it works, and using that live on your site. And then the tone of voice and language. Um, I think, sometimes it can be tempting just to have something that's very, basic. Hello, I'm so and so. I'm a UX designer based in Seattle. Okay, but that doesn't tell us a whole lot about yourself or your personality. So maybe this is an option of like how you write your headlines, um, how you speak, how you talk through your case studies. Maybe you're a very like cool surfer style person, and you successfully really integrate um, this like casual way of talking, maybe even some slang or something, as long as it's not so far that like the users won't be able to understand what you're saying. Um, but you don't have to be like super formal, super like, yes, be professional, but you can infuse your personality into the tone of voice and language. Your pitch, we talked about a little bit, but that will also be part of your branding. If your big focus is design systems, and that's like you want to be a design system specialist, your pitch should kind of call that out. If you're a freelancer or you're a UX generalist, kind of encompassing in your pitch how you fit these roles. Your visual style, so things like on your landing page within your case studies, are you using photography? Are you using illustrations? Having consistency with this. Do you have a very minimal look? Is that your personality? Um, Make sure that all of this is making sense with how you see yourself, um, how you want to be positioning yourself, and that you also have consistency. For example, if you're like super casual and like, hey, what's up, peeps, on your landing page, and then your case studies are like, very professional, formal language, there will be a mental disconnect of like, well, who are you? Like the style is different. Or if you're using, round pill shaped buttons on your home page, but then on your about page, you have square buttons, make sure that all that visual consistency is really clear. Getting into the portfolio architecture and navigation. So here, super, super important to leverage familiar patterns. The best interfaces are those that are familiar for users. Jacob's law actually, it states that users spend most of their time on other sites, and that means that users prefer your site to work the same way as the other sites that they already know and are familiar with. Um, and this is absolutely true. Like when you think about where will your top navigation be? Where will your footer be? What information will be there? Where are the CTAs usually found? Is that above the fold? Are ever CTAs up in the top navigation? Leveraging those familiar patterns that people are already kind of expecting helps to reduce, that whole load of learning how to navigate a site that they're completely unfamiliar with and can't find. You definitely, when you're applying for jobs and showcasing your portfolio, you want your users to be able to find the information that they are looking for, which might be your case studies, it might be your about me, maybe your resume. If you're a freelancer, this could be, the contact, or being able to like book you for something, or purchase one of your products. when do you find yourself, automatically looking for like a search bar at the top of the homepage of a new website? Think about like, well, why is that? Um, it's because we've been trained with those familiar patterns, especially shopping with companies, like Amazon and using social media like Facebook, LinkedIn. The search bar is like at the top, so you get familiar with this, right? So leveraging that familiar pattern within your website will make it easier for your users to navigate. Then we have our portfolio structure and elements, which we've already covered a lot of this within the whiteboarding activity. But just to recap, we've got our menu navigation or our footer. And the menu navigation could be like a top bar, it could be a sidebar. However, you are looking for that navigation to be, just making sure that it's clear that the content hierarchy is according to what is important to you and what your users need to find. Having a home or landing page, which the content within here can really vary and depends on the role you're going after, the sort of company you're pursuing. If you're a freelancer, it could be a listing of your services and a way to like buy them or book them. It could be, a small collection of your best case studies, if that's what you want to call attention to. It could even have information about you, kind of a hello, even on that landing page. And then we'll have a section devoted to like work, projects, or case studies. And this can be approached a lot of different ways. So, some people that's just incorporated on the homepage. That's one approach. You can also have it as a completely separate section, where maybe you have your top favorites on your homepage, but then a comprehensive all work page, or all your case studies in one collection. You could even subdivide it by different, like say you're a UX generalist and you do UX research, but you also do visual or graphic design. You could literally have different menu sections to help people navigate to that. Um, but basically, just these different projects or case studies, they need to live somewhere. And then it's up to you to determine how you see that working within your navigation. Some of you also mentioned like other side projects and hobbies. And definitely that's something that could even be its own page of like, well, for example, on one of my old portfolios, I had a latte art collection because my background prior to UX was in coffee. So I had like a latte art collection, and I was also an artist. So I would have like my drawings and different art that I had done. Um, that's one way to do it. You can also incorporate it into your about page, which is more the direction I'm going right now, just making that a little bit toned down and more focused on like UX work for my portfolio, and just including more of those other projects and hobbies within my about. And then regarding the about page, that can be short, it can be more lengthy. You can use that in a way as your CV for storytelling of like how you got to design the different things that you did. I've seen, look at that resource list that I'll be sharing along of these portfolios to check out and see how different people are handling their about page, whether it's just a statement about their approach, their process, their interests, who they are, photos to kind of bring life to it, let people see that there is a face behind this portfolio, that it's not just a digital project. Like who are you? I am a big fan of also even having candid photos, because that kind of brings that casual nature, bringing that to life, that you're a human and not just, uh, a professional posed photo that might feel a little bit more robotic or AI even. Um, your resume and CV, that's something that, a lot of hiring managers find useful to have, While on your resume, you can link to your portfolio. Also on your portfolio, you can link to your resume. Having that directly there can often be really helpful for them. Um, and you could have that, link directly to your resume within, say, like Google Docs. You could have it directly built into your website where you customized how you want that to look visually. You could have it as a PDF to download. There's so many different ways to approach that. So it doesn't have to be its own like menu item per se. It can be, or it could literally just be a CTA on your about or contact page or home page to download your resume or view your resume. Um, so a lot of different creative options you can explore there. Um, then contact. So having a contact page, ways for, say you are a freelancer, ways for people to be able to get in touch with you or hire you. Um, if you are not a freelancer, say you're going after full-time positions, it still can be helpful for people to have access to your email, um, or if they need to chat with you about something, ask a question. Some designers even build in a chat bot. And if you have like a really more robust website or code it yourself, that's a cool feature that you can have. I do feel that it's a bit unnecessary for most roles unless you're a freelancer. Then I think it's like really helpful to have that chat and ability to discuss services and help people out in that way. But other than that, just having a contact page or the ability to contact as a, CTA or something like this. Then your social links. So same thing as your resume, you have your social links for like your LinkedIn or potentially even your Twitter or X as it actually is. And none of us can get around to actually calling it X anymore. um, but you can have all these social links if you have an Instagram, if you have a YouTube channel where you're posting stuff, GitHub, like any of this post those links. If you have a presence, if you're active, you have content you want to share and allow people to see you on those different platforms and find you, super helpful to include that in your portfolio as well. Um, and then lastly, CTAs and text links. So this can be, buttons that are colorful. It can be just text links to take you somewhere. But this can be navigation to either navigate within your portfolio or even externally, where it can link to like a website. It can link to a resume or something external from your website as well. And then we have the user experience and usability. So this will be things like accessibility, functionality, responsiveness, all these considerations that are really important before launching your website. So some questions that you can ask yourself is like, what tasks will my users need to complete? So figuring out like, well, if it is a hiring manager or if it is a recruiter viewing my site, what do they need to find? Do they need my contact information? Do they need to know about me? So a lot of this will be like navigation and that experience and ease of use. You can test this with friends. Test this. There's a lot of like really great supportive Facebook or Discord groups where you can ask people to take a look. And even from a designer perspective or groups that maybe it's a recruiter group and ask them to take a look at like, for the sort of things that you need to typically find when you're reviewing a portfolio, like, are you able to complete your tasks? How is this experience for you? You can find that out. How is the user experience performing specific tasks? And those tasks might be like viewing a case study. It might be downloading your resume. What is that experience? Are there any errors? Are there any links that are broken or not opening properly? Is something clunky or just taking, why do I have 5 clicks to get the information I need instead of one? Really simplifying that experience and making it user friendly. Is my site usable or functional? That factors into it. Don't have buttons that don't click and go to anywhere if they say they do. Nobody enjoys seeing download resume and not have that button work, or view my prototype and then this button doesn't work. Uh, Other things could be like carousels, making sure that the carousels are um, workable, that you can click between the different images. Also into this usability is, how is the accessibility? Testing all those colors and backgrounds and text for your size, your weight, your color contrast. Don't just assume that all recruiters and hiring managers don't have a disability. Make sure that, this is something that they can easily read, they can easily understand, easily see. Make that accessible. And especially, as a designer, if you are wanting to move into designing for accessibility, how can you showcase that you know how to design for accessibility within your portfolio site? And even if you don't focus on accessibility as a specialization in your role, it is still a super big, important part of being a designer to understand. And your portfolio is a great place for you to showcase that you understand this, know how to use it, and put that in action. And then how is the responsiveness of my site? I think that's another thing that a lot of designers kind of forget about, or they just assume like, oh, someone's at work, they're going to view my portfolio on desktop. Also check, on mobile. You don't necessarily know if this person is very busy and maybe they're actually pulling up your site on their phone. What is that mobile experience? And that will also showcase your skills as a designer, that you're aware, even for your portfolio website, that you have put thought into what the design is going to look like, and that whole experience for mobile as well as for desktop. I do feel that, also design for tablet, that responsiveness in between, but from the data that I've gathered, there's definitely fewer touch points for people accessing design portfolios for jobs on tablet devices. Um, Not that you want to have a bad tablet experience, but definitely desktop and mobile do tend to be the top devices used to access portfolios. And then lastly, test and iterate. So this is going to be all about, if you can ask even friends, your colleagues, fellow students, or even get on LinkedIn, get on Facebook groups, Discord groups, Slack groups, and access the design community. There's a lot of really great design communities like, Iterate UX, which that nonprofit organization I volunteer for, they have a whole Discord community where people will post their designs or their portfolios and ask people to give them feedback. There's design buddies. Um, there's literally so many different communities that you can leverage. Women that UX group on Facebook is a great one. So many different areas that you can reach out to either the design community or a specific, if you want to get recruiters or hiring managers to take a look. You could even book with one of them through a mentorship platform. ADP list, there's a lot of designers who are also hiring managers, or designers who are recruiters or have a recruiting background, that you can book a mentorship session with them and ask them, from this perspective, how is your portfolio? And then taking all that feedback and advice that you've gotten, synthesizing it and iterating. If you got feedback that your text size is too small, then do some research into what those accessibility standards are. What should your text size be? Make those changes. Or maybe, the color is too light, it's not readable, or we want more images to tell the story, or more interaction to be engaging, incorporating that, and then revising your portfolio. Your portfolio is a living document, so the revisions are constant. As you change and grow as a designer, your portfolio should absolutely be changing and growing alongside you. And even to the point of like, not necessarily just that, like, as a designer, you're getting better, but also the fact that you'll be working on new projects and those will need to get updated to your portfolio. And sometimes your approach on a new project as you learned and grew and got exposed to new things, that will also inform other projects. And you'll realize, oh, I want to change this about a different project. I'm constantly updating my portfolio, changing things. Sometimes it's just because not that I'm bored, but that I'm interested to like test something, try something new, or I get some idea in my head, or maybe I just launched a new project or feature at work, and I need to prepare a case study and update my portfolio with that. Um, so that's constantly something that's changing. I probably update my portfolio once a week, even if it's a small update. And I do recommend keeping on on top of that. I think, once you have a successful portfolio prepared, it can be tempting to kind of just let it set. And then you realize, oh no, I have 10 projects to add and everything is so outdated. It doesn't even represent me as a designer anymore. And it's a lot of work. So really recommend keep it as a living document. Update things as you update things and you realize, oh, I've changed my direction. I no longer want to pursue like UX research roles. Maybe you're changing that navigation in the way you're pitching yourself. Um, maybe you realize that some of your student projects are no longer relevant for the roles that you're pursuing because you have more projects and better work or work that you feel more reflects the direction you want your career to go. Um, so yeah, it's totally normal for your portfolio to be changing constantly. So I recommend to get comfortable with that and not feel that it's like, oh, it's never perfect. I'm constantly refining. This is normal, and it doesn't matter how junior or senior you are. Um, it's going to keep changing as we do. And then coming next in this series will be a subset of this larger portfolio topic, which will be structuring and optimizing your case studies. So this will, be part of that structure as well as like storytelling, best practices, and some case study references and things like this. So just a heads up on that. And then at this point, I'll just turn it over to Meg and the group for any questions. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Amy. I learned a ton in this session. Same with the last one too. But like Amy said, time for Q&A. So if you have questions you want to type in the chat, that's great. You're also welcome to raise your hand and unmute yourself if you'd like to just go on mic. So the floor is open. I know we've got a couple minutes left. So go ahead and shoot. Aaliyah, you have a question?
Yes, I'm apologize if I missed this in the beginning, because I had to join late. And this is kind of general. I guess it's hard to know like what to do to kind of set your portfolio apart because our recruiters are looking at so many. So a question would be, and like I said, this is general. What are, I guess, some of the elements of like unique portfolios you've seen, even if they're not anything like flashy or like heavily designed? What are the things that catch your eye and I guess like show thought and then also like earnesty and someone like really putting themselves forward and standing out from other portfolios?
That's a great question. I think it's a hard question to answer as well because what's important to each hiring manager or recruiter is going to vary depending on their background and their company values, their company size. So I think the best way to answer would be that what will pop out is something that is relevant to that company. So, from like a recruiter or hiring manager perspective, they're going to be looking at like how you are a fit for that role. So if within kind of your whole image and everything, you have showcased that, like, say the role is about they want you to have good animation skills, copywriting skills, visual design, stuff like this. And then you just showcase that you understand color hierarchy, accessibility. Maybe you have an animation that's kind of happening on your homepage. And then everything's just so clear how to navigate. The storytelling is, you know, you start with your pitch and it's like outlining every single keyword that they're looking for. That's going to feel relevant to that kind of company. And this is easier to achieve if you know that you want to like specialize in something, say UX research in the fintech space. Something like really focused like that does make that easier. If you're a UX generalist, it's a little harder, right? Because kind of you can't please everybody, and you might be applying to roles in e-commerce, health tech, gov tech, like all over, and they're going to have different, value sets and priorities for those roles. But in general, like leveraging good UX, accessibility, visual design. I always think something that kind of humanizes the experience. Like if it grabs my attention, whether that is through like motion and animation, or maybe it's color, maybe it's an image, maybe it's just a headline that I wasn't expecting, that is like really bold and infuses so much personality. Like whatever can capture that attention, that will intrigue your users to continue scrolling or continue exploring. And you're absolutely right. It's so competitive right now that what used to be a good portfolio is no longer enough. Even at the junior level, like the market is so flooded. There's so much competition that people are just looking for any way that they can stand out. And usually that's going to be for really personalizing the experience and pitching to that company where they feel like, oh, I'm seen. All my questions, all my problems, I see that you're going to solve them, even before scrolling. I can see that you're potentially that person to interview.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any
Checking
other
the chat, see if
questions?
there's any others.
I want to be respectful of everybody's time here and also Amy's time. So just want to check in with Amy if you did want to hang back for an additional moment if there are more questions. But again, just want to be respectful of your time and everybody else's too. I do see one question in the chat if you did want to take a look.
Okay. The question is, I heard that portfolio is more important than resume in the UX field. Is it true? I've never seen any data on comparing resume with portfolios for matter of importance. I would say, in my experience, they more go hand in hand because pretty typically you can't apply to any job with just one. If you apply with your resume, they'll say, make sure you include a link to your portfolio or have it on your resume. And then same from, the portfolio, like anytime you try to do a job application, I have yet to come across, after thousands of applications, any situation where I would be able to just apply with a portfolio. I have seen some where I could apply with just a resume and a portfolio was optional. But I would say they are both important and they both go hand in hand. And I think the opportunities for the whole like user experience and branding and navigation, the way the information is displayed, the storytelling, a lot of that cross applies for both, right? Like in my experience, you can tell like with my background here, the slides, like I'm kind of branding myself with the pink. No surprise, my portfolio is the same way. Same sort of like shades going on there. So also my resume like is the same. So I would say that like maybe it's the opposite in a way that your resume might be slightly more important than your portfolio in terms of that you can actually apply to a few jobs just solely with a resume. Um, but I've never come across a job where you could only apply with your portfolio. I do think the importance of the portfolio has increased with the today's like very brutal job market. I feel like the quality of portfolios, even that junior and entry level designers are building, has increased just because it's had to with how competitive things are. Um, but yeah, I would say I see them more as equals rather than one having more importance than the other. Good questions. Any others? Anything that wasn't clear or you wanted to dive into more deeply?
Going once, going twice.
Well, right. If you do have questions, here's how to contact me. So you can scan the QR code or follow the link. I'll also drop the link in the chat. But yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if there's, any questions you think about later, um, or you just want to connect and nerd out on stuff and discuss all the fun intricacies of portfolios and resumes. Feel free to hit me up there. Um, and yeah, I will be sharing to Meg the resource list that I mentioned. So you'll be able to definitely dig more into detail, like start reviewing some of these best portfolios, if you will. And Meg will get that all updated into your student portal and streamline all that. But yeah, I just wanted to say a big thank you to you, Meg, for having me, and to everyone for joining us today for your great questions and participation. This was fun.